Mommy, and then you say, and you go to the window, you look, you see the bike hasn't been put away, and you say, you lied to me, now you're going to get a spanking for lying. Am I right? She said, how did you know that? I said, it's very simple. I said, your child is afraid of you. And so, because she's kind of like in la-la land most of the time, she said, how did you know that? I said, because she's 6 years old, and she's probably out chasing butterflies. She gets outside, she's distracted easily. She's probably thinking, oh, she said, that's exactly how she is. She doesn't listen to anything that I tell her. I said, no, she's listening, she's just not doing what you're telling her because other things are more important to her at this time. She needs to be disciplined, not punished. I said, you're mistaking what our role is as a parent. This child needs to be disciplined, to be discipled. That's where the word discipline comes from. Not to be punished. You only punish for purposeful disobedience. And sometimes after mercy's been exhausted. You know, that's what we got to get into our head here. God does not punish us. All the time. He disciplines us mostly. Rarely will he punish us. So as parents, we got to figure that out. You know, what is purposeful disobedience? Defiance in your face. Yes, punish a child for that. But not for forgetfulness. Now, I know there are other teachers that would say, yeah, punish them even for forgetfulness. But I would say, absolutely not, because God doesn't do that with me. So I said, so when she comes back inside, say, Sally, go put your bike away. She comes back in and said, okay, Mommy, put it away. Sally, did you put your bike away? Yes, Mommy, I did. And you know she didn't. Say, Sally, most likely you probably forgot to go back out and put it away. She's not lying to you. And even if she is lying to her, lying is not the issue right now. Do we want to deal with lying right now, or do we want to deal with being responsible right now? Because you could probably get the child to come up with a whole host of sins in which you can deal with all at once. You know? I mean, we put enough fear in these kids, and I'm sure everything's going to come out. You know, same thing in our lives. So let's just deal with one thing at a time. Let's let her be responsible, and the lying will subside, I promise you. And then you can deal with lying on another day with mercy and tenderness and compassion. And so I said, just grab her by the hand and say, Sally, let's go put it back together. And she goes, Mommy, I put it back. Mommy, really don't. Please. I did, Mommy. I promise you. Sally, it's all right, sweetheart. You know what? Sometimes we can just be forgetful, and sometimes when we're afraid, sometimes we say things we don't want to say, and we're all just mumble-jumbled in our brains. And say, well, let's just go put it together. Put it away together. So you take her by the hand and you put the bike away. And then you do that the next day, and the next day, and the next week, and the next month. And you know what will happen probably within a few short weeks? The fear is going to subside, and she's going to learn to trust you. And she's not going to be afraid, and she's not going to have any reason to lie anymore. And you know what? She'll probably start being more responsible. But if she's not, just teach her, disciple her. That's what we got to do with our children. There was speaking at a counselor's meeting, and the counselor came up to me and said, you know, I could counsel anybody, but my own family's a mess. He says, my wife and daughter, she's 14 years old, they hate each other. I said, well, when does the hate come out mostly? He said, when she wakes up in the morning. He said, my daughter is a manipulator, and if someone can close that door, that'd be great. She's a manipulator, and she just gets my wife, no matter what my wife asks her to do, somehow she just manipulates and controls the situation where she will not have to do it. She said, we don't know what to do. I said, well, give me one illustration of the thing that triggers it the most. She said, I'm telling you, when she wakes up in the morning, she comes downstairs, she's got to fly out to get to school, and her bed's not made, she didn't finish her homework, nothing's done. This child is just living on destroying herself. I said, so, you know, out of the abundance of the heart, what speaks? Mouth speaks. So I'm trying to listen to words, and I'm thinking like, okay, she didn't make her bed. Is that important to your wife? And he said, yeah, that's all she asked her to do, make the bed. You know? Clean her room once a week, make the bed. It's not a big deal. You know, even if she just pulled the sheets and blankets up and it wasn't perfect, my wife would be satisfied. I said, okay. I said, then when she doesn't make the bed, does your wife say something about it when your daughter is coming downstairs trying to get breakfast and get out the door? He said, yeah. You know, she doesn't want to let it go. I said, okay. I said, I see the problem. He said, what? He said, your wife is provoking your daughter to anger. He said, my wife's not the problem, my daughter is. I said, your wife's the problem. He said, she'll never believe that. I said, okay, here's the plan. Talk to your wife, and this is what needs to happen. Next time your daughter gets up out of bed, comes downstairs, everything's ready to roll, tell your wife to say this. Sweetheart, I have made your very best breakfast. I am so excited about today. Is there anything else that I can get for you today to help your day be better? And tell her not to mention the bed one time. In fact, after your daughter leaves, tell your wife to go up and make the bed. She said she'll never do that. She'll never have a restored relationship. Because that's what Christ did for us. He came down and made our bed. And he got dirty. And he served. And as a result, we follow. We're trying to get our kids to follow by our words. We're trying to get our kids to follow by force. We've got to get our kids to follow by example. And so I said, and have her go and make that bed the next day, and the next week, and the next month. Because she's 14 years old. It's taken 14 years to get this way. I believe it'll only take a couple months to reverse it. That's what I love about grace. Grace reverses things much quicker than our forcefulness destroyed it. So okay, I'll try it. Folks, that's all it takes. Is once our kids get a glimpse of our living God, our Father in heaven, who treats us that way, who wouldn't want that? I get excited when I wake up in the morning. The first person I think of is the Lord. Because he's so amazing to me. Sometimes I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I start laughing my head off. I can't believe all that God has done for me. It's just amazing. So, never assume without the greatest necessity an austere posture, which always frightens children and arises from affectation and pedantry. What I said earlier, you do it because I told you to do it. For children are generally timid and bashful. You close their hearts from you by it. You make them withdraw their confidence, without which no good fruit can spring forth. Make yourself beloved by them, and they will be open with you, and they will not fear to let you see their faults. Isn't that our goal? I want my kids to be able to come to me and say, Dad, I've got this problem, and I don't know how to overcome it. Boy, that is a relationship with your children. That's what I do with my God. Father, I'm struggling with this issue. Will you help me? And one of the things I realized is that if I ask him, he always helps me. So what do you do when you see their faults? How do you respond? Do you react or do you respond? See, reacting is just that knee-jerk reaction. Responding is thoughtful preparation of what you're about to say and do. So you don't react, respond. Think through about what you're going to say. And sometimes it is best not to say anything for sometimes a couple days. One of the things that I read in the book of Romans, it says that hope makes us not ashamed. In the book of Lamentations chapter 3, it says that he that endures will receive hope. There's something about people that are hopeless as a result of shame. And I think that's what happens to children. Children who don't have a lot of hope, things aren't going to get a lot better. They're not going to be able to overcome this. They just get buried in shame and guilt, and there's no way out for them. But when hope comes, hope is a restorer. We've got to give our children hope again. And one of the ways that we can give our children hope, well, let me give you this illustration. I went to the post office, that's where we get our mail, and I didn't get any mail this day, the next day. 8 days, no mail. And I thought, finally went into the post office, and I went to the postmaster there, and the assistant came. Her name was Kathy. And I said, Kathy, I said, I'm not getting any mail. What's going on? And she said, oh, you've been getting mail. I said, there's none in the box. And this is my 8th day. She said, oh, but you've been getting it. I said, well, where is it? She said, well, your son Jonathan's been coming and getting it every day, around 3 o'clock. I said, what? I said, he doesn't get the mail. She said, oh, he's been getting it the last 8 days. I said, why? She said, I can't tell you that. That'd be a federal offense. She said, but you can ask questions. I said, he's been coming to get the mail because he's getting mail that he shouldn't be getting, some bad stuff. She said, oh, he wouldn't do that. I said, he's getting letters from a girl. She said, no, I told you about that one the last time. I said, I can't think of why he would get the mail.